Hello, my name is Jason Ford and I head up the Enterprise Agility practice at NTT Data. We believe an enterprise is agile when it can rapidly reconfigure strategy, structure, processes, people and technology towards value-creating and value-protecting opportunities. This, in short, is enterprise agility. When successful, the benefits are significant. Agile organizations are better able to innovate and thus thrive in disruptive markets. They typically have higher levels of employee engagement, are more productive and more profitable. However, these transformational benefits are often elusive for many. 95% of organizations will fail on the path to change. They do so because they don't take a systems-wide perspective. Instead, they focus on transforming 2 or 3 areas of their business and frequently omit key enablers such as strategic alignment, flexible finance planning, and talent management. Our integrated approach to building enterprise agility is based on 3 pillars that span the breadth of the organization. This ensures our clients reap the benefits. The first of these pillars we call creating strategic intent. We believe it is essential to align vision and strategy before embarking on transforming the organization. Without this crucial step, most initiatives stumble. To avoid this, we work with organizations specifically to demonstrate the value of agility to executives, ensure there is clarity of intent by aligning vision and strategy, and make the resulting strategy actionable and co-create a transformation plan. This alone, though, is not enough. For organizations to benefit, such intent needs to result in changes to the way the organizations operate. The second of our pillars focuses on adapting the organization to enable this to happen. We help clients rethink their organization to exploit the benefits of autonomy and empowerment in order to increase the flow of value to their customers. We ensure teams have the right skills, tools, and mindset to embed and scale agility throughout the organization. We assess the effectiveness of these changes using our software engineering excellence framework that measures the flow of value through the system and correlates this with the commercial benefits. Finally, for those clients needing to rapidly scale, we provide structured agile teams to accelerate product development. These teams are built around value streams and are expert in digital product engineering. Our approach is centered on 4 core principles: innovation, design-led thinking, software engineering excellence, and agile orchestration. We are so confident in our ability to deliver improved commercial outcomes for our clients using this model that we will share the risk and reward to ensure full alignment of interests. However, before any of this is possible, it is essential that the organization has clarity of vision and a consistent strategy with which to realize the benefits. Today, Matt is going to look in detail at the first critical step on the journey and provide our perspective on accelerating business agility.
Hi everyone, my name's Matt Kearney. I'm the Vice President for Strategy at NTT Data UK, and I'd like to take you through our thinking and approach to business agility. I'll be covering 3 key areas with you today. Firstly, what's the key challenge for every organisation? Secondly, I want to explain why business agility is so critical to tackling that challenge. And lastly, I'll give you some practical steps as to how you can start your own business agility journey. Over the last couple of decades, our lives have changed pretty significantly due to the development of technology and the interconnectedness it's created. This is most obvious when you think about the massive computing power we all carry around in our pockets, but still rather quaintly referred to as mobile phones. And because of these and the underlying capabilities created over this period, we've witnessed and will continue to witness a massive increase in the digitization of the physical environment around us as well. That's why, since the late 90s, we've seen an increasing variety of new offerings and indeed whole new categories created by startups, many of whom are now household names. And they've done this by completely changing our expectations as consumers with regards to convenience, personalization, and the levels of transparency and control we've come to expect. In parallel, this has also driven our expectations as citizens, driving huge efforts across government in public services as well. As a result of these ongoing changes, you can see the number of organisations have already been affected and disappeared, and an even larger number are predicted to disappear over the coming years. Because when the balance tips too far in your inability to be able to sense and adjust to your circumstances, things can deteriorate at a frightening rate. To reinforce this point with a happier ending, when Satya Nadella was asked recently why Microsoft had allowed Amazon to build such a large cloud computing business without response. He very honestly said that at the time, and under previous leadership, they'd had a drive that was purely about short-term focus. But he then went on to say that his philosophy is based on the notion that navigating change is now the challenge of every organisation. And under his tenure, they've certainly embraced that to great effect. So why is it that business agility is so important to navigating change? Whilst all those organisations tried to change, they fell short. And although there are winners, the truth is that most organisations struggle to successfully transform. And the cost of this is eye-watering. The Harvard Business Review estimated that of the $1.3 trillion spent on digital transformations in 2018, a staggering $900 billion went to waste. From our experience around the world, we know that even when organisations state a desire to embark on this journey, there are generally going to be three big challenges in terms of implementation. The first relates to a limited recognition of the level and types of changes required. Organisations want to deliver great products and services, but to do that, everything across the organisation needs to be in sync, and many struggle to properly understand the implications of that up front. Secondly, the challenge of getting consensus about what's most important can also prove a thorny issue, even with strong stakeholder engagement, because this is an issue that gets to the heart of what it is the organisation is trying to achieve. And lastly, everyone will initially tell you that they want to be more nimble, but when challenged to be that, you'll often identify a significant cohort, usually including senior leaders, who believe that it's other people or other teams who need to change and not them. All these challenges track back to organisations having an insufficient ability to embrace change whilst executing with purpose, and that's business agility. It's common for people to confuse business agility and agile, not just because they sound similar, but because they're both related and important topics. However, whilst agile is a specific solution to enable organisations to better deliver software solutions faster, business agility is a broader topic and set of solutions. And without some of those in place, agile software implementations will often stall. So if you want to go agile, you definitely need to think business agility first. This can be a particular challenge in public services, where organisations have successfully adopted agile software development to focus on delivering great citizen services, but haven't fully embraced organisational level agility to be as systematically and responsive as they have been perhaps during the COVID period. Because once you do that, the evidence shows that not only do you get to market quicker and get better financial results, but you also engage all your employees a lot better, leading to much better organisational health overall. So, how do you go about taking a strategic approach to business agility? The short answer is you need to supercharge your leaders, because your ability to be successful is almost completely correlated with your ability to take your leaders on the journey. Otherwise, what you'll find, as many other organisations have found, is that whilst you can build pockets of agility, that isn't enough to scale. The drag that you'll face in terms of existing ways of working, processes, and mindsets requires a pincer movement to drive change from the top down, positioned in a language they understand. And you do that by helping them very quickly consider the range of factors potentially holding back the organisation, but also isolating and acting on the critical gaps from what's already planned or happening. Now, evolving the decision-making instincts of leaders who've operated very successfully for anywhere up to 30 years plus is no simple task. That's why we found that reframing the context of what we're trying to achieve is the most productive approach. We found that there are 6 things that organisations who want to not only survive but thrive in our ever-changing world need to navigate successfully. The first of these is escaping inertia, usually caused by an overly internal focus and concern over impacting existing activities, which creates a huge drag on change. Next up is achieving orchestration, which is the challenge of getting the organization to think and act as one in the service of new goals. Next is harnessing motivation, which is overcoming an inability to properly harness the driving force of any organization, its people. Minimizing resistance is about avoiding prolonged resistance to change through the bargaining and depression stages that come about in the 5 stages of emotional change, which can kill initiatives in their tracks. Creating new approaches, which reflects the tendency to try to use unsuitable BAU processes to drive different ideas and outcomes. And lastly, championing a new mindset, because many organizations get stuck due to the sheer level of fixed mindsets amongst employees, and that stops them from getting new things done, full stop. The good news is that based on our work with clients and research we've conducted, we've been able to codify the different elements of business agility into 6 easily understandable dimensions that relate directly to the 6 challenges and can be broken down in detail with business leaders and across the organization as a whole, both in terms of diagnosis, but most importantly in terms of solutions. To escape inertia, organizations need responsiveness, the ability to both recognize and take action in a timely manner. For inspiration, consider Costa Coffee. Recognizing a demand for self-service high-quality coffee in different locations, they brought together a specialist team of partners. No traditional RFP, no fixed specifications. The team operated with decision-making autonomy directly to the board. The result was to bring about a whole new product 5 times faster than normal, creating Costa Express and effectively doubling the size of their business. To achieve orchestration, you require focus, and that means aligning all of your value drivers. Again, for inspiration, at Zara, their vision is to give customers what they want and get it to them faster than anybody else, and they trade off some cost savings to be able to make this happen. The entire business model is set up in service of it, rotating inventory once every 5 weeks, driving customers because they sell out quickly. This requires a massive spare production capacity availability to act quickly, and they also have to test and learn live rather than trying to predict behavior, all of which has contributed to their founder becoming the world's 6th richest person. To harness motivation, you must have resilience that comes when your people feel a real sense of purpose and empowerment. Back in 2004, Lego were on the brink of bankruptcy and a new CEO was appointed. Within 4 years, the business went from a £217 million loss to a £163 million profit. As you would expect, streamlining operations and controlling costs was central, but the critical foundation was employees' sense of belonging. The new CEO leveraged this by providing strategic intent whilst giving creative control to employees. These actions boosted motivation to the point where employees claim they wouldn't work anywhere else, and helping Lego to become the world's largest manufacturer by 2017. Whilst to minimize resistance, organizations need adaptability in their processes and their structures. Netflix are the poster child here, already having a thriving business with its postal DVD rental service, but recognizing the opportunity in streaming, they set up a parallel operation internally to effectively compete with itself and others. Using the insight they gained on how consumers tended to binge watch episodes, they pioneered the full season release model with House of Cards in 2013. Interestingly, they still have 2 million profitable DVD customers in the US, but they've also got 182 million streaming subscribers worldwide. To create new approaches, an organization requires innovativeness. When Walt Disney made Snow White back in 1936, it required 250,000 individual drawings, which meant that he literally had to invent storyboarding, or epics as we might call them today, as well as effectively creating the concept of a scrum team and release trains, and all 50 years early. To this day, their culture is no ideas too small, and everyone's entitled to generate and share ideas, and the company rewards them for this, as well as developing virtual tools and physical spaces to foster it company-wide. This approach has seen them successfully create a wide range of business models. Most recently, Disney Plus, which hit 10 million subscribers on day one, and that was pre-pandemic. And finally, to champion a new mindset, organisations need to develop their versatility, specifically in who they recruit and how they develop their people. Take Turkcell, for example. They're the largest telecom provider in Turkey, and they changed their vision from network operator to digital experience provider. Realising telecom skills were only going to be a small part of what they needed, they adopted a continuous learning mantra, inspiring and developing T-shaped resources within the organisation to generate and develop new opportunities. In the last 3 years, they've increased their revenues by 43% at a time when the global market is broadly flat by launching a range of digital services, including their music streaming app, which is 3 times as popular as Spotify in Turkey. So how do you go about doing all this? Well, use the 6 dimensions laid out in this framework in one-to-one assessments with your leadership team. From there, it's possible to develop your own assessment or to reach out to NTT to help. This will allow you to get your leadership on the same page, using the same language about what the current situation is and what the blockers to their ambitions are in terms of strategic goals, framed in a way that they understand because they told you. At this level, we find a traffic light system is the right level to identify problem areas and topics. Finally, you're going to need a playback and alignment session to agree where to concentrate and which type of solutions are going to be required. This process works, and you can get your leadership team extremely well aligned in a matter of weeks, although of course implementing the necessary changes will take longer. The important point though is to get your leaders aligned around intent. For more information on this, please take a look at the white paper, Making Business Agility a Reality, we'll be sending out to all of you off the back of today's webinar. And please feel free to get in touch with me if you have any questions or would like to have a chat. To finish up though, there are 5 key lessons that we've learned from helping organisations implement business agility strategically that I'd like to share with you. First off, don't assume everybody knows what business agility means. There's a tendency to confuse agile with business agility, and although they're closely related, they're not the same thing. So you need to educate colleagues on the differences or risk falling victim to what they think they know already. Next, it's only once you've added your own specific organisational goals and situation into the context of the framework that you can identify the correct recipe for you. So try and avoid prejudging the solutions required up front. Third, this isn't an exercise to delegate. It must be the leaders of your business or function going through this process initially. However, once they have aligned, it's now the turn of the next level down. So engage them in the discussion, don't dictate to them. And finally, if you want everyone else to embrace a fresh perspective, you have to be seen to do that yourself. So always remember to respect, collaborate, learn, and improve in how you conduct this process and yourself generally. To reflect on the words of the late great Alvin Toffler from 50 years ago now, I hope this presentation will contribute to your organisation's ability to relearn. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Matt. So I hope that was interesting. We've had a number of questions that have come in during that during Matt's presentation. So obviously keep them coming, but I will attempt to answer the first 3 that we've got through. So firstly, someone has asked, what does the actual process look like in order to do this work? What does the intervention look like and what's typically involved? Matt, perhaps you can give us an overview, given that you've led a number of interventions, a number of projects in the past.
Sure, thanks, Jason. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's really about kind of having one-to-one kind of sessions with the leadership of the organisation or the function that's kind of in scope, and then bringing everybody together for an overall session. What you're doing in those one-to-one sessions, which are 90 minutes, generally speaking, is running through a series of high-level kind of questions, which you then drill down into based upon the things that are perceived as being the biggest problems. So just to kind of give you an example, The question, are the vast majority of your employees kind of clear on your business strategy, and do they understand their role in supporting it? And are they able to do that without distraction or confusion? Is one of the questions we would typically ask, and that you would be amazed at how often that's kind of amber or kind of indeed sort of red. So the language then that we use helps to standardize things, so you get everybody on the same page, and then when they come back together, everybody understands each other properly, which can often be one of the causes of confusion. From that, you get a series of key steps, and then you identify the interventions that are going to be necessary to that organization. And the idea is to, typical backlog sort of fashion, to just pick the most kind of critical ones to get on with first. So just a few key things, and then once those have been developed, you then work on the next things on the list. So it's all about kind of managing the flow, kind of, as I'm sure many people on the call would kind of recognize.
Thanks. We've got a second question come in, and I think this relates to the point that you were making earlier on in the presentation in terms of the relationship between agile software delivery and business agility. And the question is essentially, how does business agility relate to and foster better delivery, and how does that thus sort of contribute to improved delivery outcomes? So Matt, I don't know if you want to answer the first part of that question. I've got views myself, but I'll give you an opportunity to talk to that first point.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I mean, in the same way as from a delivery perspective, you want to establish kind of high-performing sort of Scrum teams. Essentially, what you're looking to do here is to create a kind of a corporate C-level Scrum team, because effectively what happens in many organisations is that they get together for set piece activities, but really it's like if anyone has small children, that idea of parallel playing. So different functions kind of really go off and do their own things outside of these set piece things. So getting them to collaborate properly together and to recognise where there are challenges that they can only overcome together creates through that much better alignment that then can flow down through the rest of the organisation. Because one of the kind of the critical problems, as people will have experienced, when it comes to sort of managing that sort of portfolio of work of the competing demands, because there isn't a sort of single kind of clear view as to what's most important. So by getting that alignment, you can get that clarity, and then that means you can all get behind what's most important from a delivery perspective.
Thanks, Matt. I think there's also, from my perspective, having led large agile delivery programs, the link for me is simply that agile delivery can't exist in a vacuum within an organization. If there's no sort of organizational life support around it, it will eventually wither. And by that I mean, if you haven't got alignment at the top of the organization that then cascades down into a set of complementary policies, it's very difficult for agile delivery to thrive. And a simple example of that would be if you don't have a financing framework that supports continuous delivery and is orientated more towards, say, product and value streams versus just simply projects and the start, stop, start nature of projects, it's very hard to sustain agile delivery. If you try to impose that project structure on agile delivery, you end up negating often many of the benefits. So I think, getting and having a permanent or at least a consistent strategy from the top is kind of core to better delivery outcomes from my perspective. We've got another question. I'm conscious of time. I think we've got time for one more. The last question, well, this is perhaps one we should have anticipated, which is where have we done this before, and what was the outcome? So Matt, again, I know you've led a number of engagements. Can you just give us a quick sort of summary of the types of client we've done this and what the outcomes were?
Yeah, absolutely. So from a globally, a number of places, but from a UK perspective, in telco organisations, financial services, and public services as well. sometimes kind of at an organizational level, sometimes initially at a sort of departmental level, which then often turns into an organizational level undertaking. In terms of the outcomes, I mean, I think the first thing is actually getting the collaboration and the teams working together at that C-suite level in a way that they often haven't done previously, and we've been told that as well. Secondly, in terms of specific outcomes, it really depends on where the gaps are, but we've had people set up new ways to do the strategic planning, changing some of the KPIs to make it more balanced between sort of lead and lag indicators to drive the right things. The idea of kind of flow within the organization, so really minimizing the number of kind of sort of zombie projects that kind of continue and take up massive amounts of time and resource have been cut back, so that saves an awful lot of time and money as well. Been changes to HR processes and the types of people that they look to recruit, so it can really be sort of across the full gambit. It really depends, so based on the 6 dimensions, which things are most important to the individual organization and where the leadership perceive the biggest challenges to be, because this is about doing things that can be done very quickly. It's not about taking months and months and months to start making a kind of a difference.
Cool, thank you very much. So we've reached 10 o'clock, or just past 10 o'clock. So I'd like to thank you all for dialing in and attending. Very much hope that the content was relevant and sort of giving you food for thought. Matt mentioned before, there is a white paper available that details the 6 dimensions and the methodology that we go into in terms of delivering these types of interventions and the results that we would anticipate being able to deliver. So do reach out if you have any questions. You'll get a copy of that white paper, but if you have questions, then please do feel free to reach out to either myself or Matt directly. Our contact details will be in that email. So once again, just thank you very much for making the time to attend this morning. Hope that was of interest and useful. Thank you.